This evening, first, a father and his teenage daughter are killed in a devastating early morning crash at the Mandela Roundabout, leaving another teen hospitalized. Thus, Police Commissioner Clifton Hicken warns ranks to reject bribes as the fight against corruption intensifies within the force. Also, mystery surrounds the death of a 28-year-old security guard in Sophia, with relatives suspecting electrocution. Meanwhile, safety measures are being rushed into place at the Georgetown Public Hospital after two patients reportedly jumped from windows. And internationally, the U.S. Senate backs Donald Trump's military campaign against Iran. Those stories and more coming up. Stay with us. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for March 5th, 2026. I'm Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, we begin tonight's broadcast with tragic news. Two people, including a teenage girl, were killed early this morning after the car they were traveling in crashed at the Mandela Roundabout in Georgetown. Dead are Kenneth Johnson of Ayfield Lilliendal, Sophia, the driver of motorcar PAL 2882, and his 15-year-old daughter, Kelly Johnson, who was seated in the front passenger seat. A teenage occupant who was also in the vehicle survived the crash and is currently hospitalized. Police said the accident occurred around 1:50 a.m. along Aubrey Barker Road. Preliminary investigations indicate that Johnson was proceeding west along the northern drive lane at a fast rate when he approached the Mandela Avenue roundabout. While attempting to negotiate a left turn onto Nelson Mandela Avenue towards the Eccles Interlink Road, he reportedly lost control of the vehicle. The car collided with a concrete median, then overturned several times before coming to a stop, leaving it extensively damaged. Police said both Johnson and his daughter were flung from the vehicle during the crash and were later found lying unconscious on the roadway. They were pronounced dead at the scene. Emergency medical services and the Ghana Fire Service responded to the scene and rescued the trapped teenager, who was taken to the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, where he remains hospitalized. The bodies of the deceased have been taken to the mortuary as investigations continue. Police have also reviewed CCTV footage from the area as part of the ongoing probe into the fatal crash. In other news, declaring that corruption will not be tolerated within the police force, Police Commissioner Clifton Hicken issued a stern warning on Wednesday to members of the Ghana Police Force to stop accepting bribes and instead charge those who attempt to corrupt officers. Speaking at the opening of the 2026 Sergeants Conference, the Police Commissioner stated that corruption involves both a giver and a receiver, and emphasized that ranks must refuse bribes and ensure that offenders are prosecuted.
Sergeant, I want to pause there to say, if you become corrupt, it's because they have a giver and you're the receiver. As of today, stop receiving, and persons must be charged when they come to bribe the police. I'm making myself very clear, or else other things will happen.
Hicken reminded sergeants that they serve as frontline leaders whose conduct shapes public trust in the force, noting that citizens judge the organization by the discipline, professionalism, and standards demonstrated by officers on the ground. The top cop also highlighted progress within the force, revealing that serious crimes have declined by 27% due to targeted operations, improving intelligence sharing and support from 476 community policing groups nationwide. Measures under the Safe Road Intelligence System, including the installation of 30 speed cameras, have contributed to a 29% reduction in road accidents. Electronic traffic tickets increased significantly from under 1,000 in 2024 to over 24,000 in 2025. In terms of infrastructure and capacity building, Hicken noted that 23 police stations, 10 boathouses, 5 command centers, and 55 CCTV sites have been completed, alongside the addition of thousands of body-worn cameras and digital workstations. He also pointed to major human resource developments, including over 3,500 promotions in 2025 and the recruitment of 774 new ranks. Looking ahead, Hicken said the force's upcoming 2027-2031 strategic plan will focus on innovation, technology, and adaptability to strengthening policing nationwide. On a different note, Relatives of a 28-year-old security guard, Trelon Frank, who was found dead in Sophia on Monday, believed he may have died from electrocution after burn marks were discovered on his hands and back. Frank, who lived in Efield, Sophia, reportedly had been working in the security sector for about 5 months. His mother, Nicole Christian of Angois Avenue, New Amsterdam, said the injuries observed on his body suggest he may have suffered an electric shock. However, a post-mortem examination is expected to determine the official cause of death. Christian recalled that her last communication with her son was a brief text exchange on Saturday regarding matrimony celebrations, after which she did not hear from him again. She later received a call from a relative informing her that Frank had died. Family members said Frank lived alone and kept his personal life private. While his father reportedly heard that someone may have been chasing him following a confrontation in Georgetown, relatives noted that there were no visible signs of physical violence. Jewelry and cash found on his body were also untouched, ruling out robbery. Authorities have launched an investigation as they await the results of the post-mortem examination to determine the exact circumstances surrounding Frank's death. Stick around when we return. 101 prison officers promoted to strengthen leadership in Ghana's prison service, and government moves to strengthen patient safety at GPHC after 2 fatal incidents.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Immediate measures are being introduced at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation to improve patient safety following 2 recent incidents in which patients reportedly died after jumping from windows at the facility. Speaking on Wednesday at an event at the Eccles Health Center, Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, said the Ministry of Health has instructed the hospital to install temporary barriers on all windows as an immediate precaution. The minister explained that while the hospital has already begun a process to modify windows after the first incident, the work had not yet been completed. In the meantime, temporary barriers will be put in place to reduce the risk of further incidents while ensuring fire safety requirements are maintained. Minister Anthony also noted that ongoing repairs to the hospital's psychiatric ward have resulted in some patients being temporarily housed in other areas of the facility, necessitating additional safeguards. According to the minister, both patients had been placed under suicide watch, but the incidents occurred during brief moments when supervision was interrupted. Dr. Anthony said the new measures are intended to close those gaps in monitoring and prevent a reoccurrence, while expressing regret over the loss of the 2 patients. Moving on, the Ministry of Home Affairs has approved the promotion of 101 officers within the Ghana Prison Service in what the officials describe as one of the most extensive advancement exercises in recent years, aimed at strengthening leadership and operational capacity across the country's correctional system. According to the ministry, the promotions span supervisory, administrative, and technical levels and are intended to expand command capacity, improve middle management oversight, and support ongoing security and rehabilitation reforms. The promotions include 5 superintendents of prisons, 13 assistant superintendents, 2 cadet officers on probation, 17 chief prison officers, 28 principal prison officers 2, 23 principal prison officers 1, 12 prison trade instructors, and 1 coxswain. Speaking on the development, Minister of Home Affairs, Juanit Waldron, said the appointments place trusted officers in positions of greater responsibility and are critical to ensuring secure facilities and effective rehabilitation programs. The promotions form part of a broader modernization initiative under the administration of Irfan Ali, which focuses on strengthening human capital alongside infrastructural improvements within the prison system. The reform program also includes upgrades to facilities such as Lusignan and Mazaruni, the introduction of enhanced electronic security systems, professional training for more than 150 officers in 2026, and expanded skills-based integration programs for inmates. The ministry said the move also restores structured career progression within the service, improves succession planning, and reinforces operational accountability across correctional facilities. Don't go away after the break. Trump administration launches U.S. military operation in Ecuador, and UK Prime Minister defends stance amid Trump criticism over conflict.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again. Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world.
Good evening, I'm Dominic Kittins. Tonight, Cuba faces a massive blackout after a power plant failure deepens its energy crisis. US and Ecuadorian forces launch a joint operation against drug cartels. The US Senate backs President Trump's campaign against Iran, and Britain's Prime Minister defends his stand on the conflict. We begin in Cuba. A widespread power outage has struck much of Cuba, including the capital Havana, after a failure at the Antonio Guterres thermoelectric plant disrupted the national grid. 2/3 of the country was left without electricity as authorities worked to restore service. The blackout comes amid severe fuel shortages and heightened pressure from U.S. restrictions on oil shipments, further straining Cuba's already fragile energy system. American and Ecuadorian forces have launched a joint operation against the country's powerful drug cartels. Ecuador has been struggling to contain cartel violence for the last 5 years. Al Jazeera's John Holman reports.
The US has opened a campaign on another front, against Ecuadorian drug cartels. The country's become a hub for moving cocaine to the US and Europe. In video released from the US Southern Command, this helicopter appears to be picking up soldiers during this long-running operation. US authorities didn't confirm to us if the country's troops actively participated or just advised Ecuadorian special forces. These joint operations really mark the expansion of the US's efforts to stop drug trafficking from South America. This administration has spent the past 6 months blowing up boats in the Caribbean, alleging that they carry drugs from Venezuela. Now it's in Ecuador too. The US says it worked with Europol and Ecuadorian forces to dismantle a network linked to the powerful Los Lobos cartel. The head of the US Southern Command even travelled to Ecuador himself, meeting with the president and Ecuadorian military officials. The country is in trouble. The murder rate linked to drug violence is very high. President Daniel Noboa, a strong regional ally of US President Donald Trump, said operations will continue.
The
next phase in our fighting against the criminal organizations starts now. We will finish with all those who want anarchy and a failed state.
This weekend, Noboa will be in Florida with other Latin American leaders for a summit with President Trump. Security is a top priority.
The president will be speaking with the leaders of this country who have really formed a historic coalition to work together to address criminal narco-terrorist gangs and cartels and counter illegal and mass migration into not only the United States but the Western Hemisphere.
But drug cartels are notoriously slippery organizations to eradicate, even with the blunt power of the US on your side. John Holman, Al Jazeera, Washington, D.C.
A majority of U.S. Senate has backed President Donald Trump's military campaign against Iran. It rejected a Democratic-led effort to bring an end to the country's attack. Al Jazeera's Patty Culhane explains the results from Washington, D.C.
As the United States military continues to launch strikes from sea and air all around Iran, as Israel intensifies strikes on Lebanon, and Iran continues to fight back, expanding targets in the region, the U.S. Senate took up a single question: should they order the president to stop? For all but one Democrat, a clear yes.
One thing is crystal clear: America is at war. In his own words, Hegseth said, quote, "We are just getting started." You hear that, America? Pete Hegseth says another war in the Middle East is just getting started.
For all but one Republican, an overwhelming belief the war should continue.
Democrats would rather obstruct President Trump than obliterate Iran's national nuclear program. Let that sink in. That's what the Democrats are trying to do. They want to use the War Powers Act as a partisan battering ram.
The procedural vote to move forward failed.
The motion to discharge is not approved.
On Thursday, it is expected to move to the House for a largely symbolic vote. Under America's constitutional system, when it comes to the use of force, there is just one branch of government that could stop U.S. President Donald Trump. That's the Congress. Now, the U.S. Senate has decided that they are not going to do that. They are not going to step in and stop this ever-expanding war. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera on Capitol Hill.
The UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer has told Parliament he is staying focused on British interests amid current conflict, despite criticism from President Donald Trump and from political opponents. Al Jazeera's Sonia Gallego reports.
In a hostile session of Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday, Prime Minister Keir Starmer was defending his position, arguing that the UK was taking a defensive role in the conflict in the Middle East. Meanwhile, his political opponent, the leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch, was arguing that the UK should put itself in more of an offensive role and aligning itself with the US. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, however, said that his focus was the British interests, the British people, and on restraint.
We need to act, therefore, with clarity, with purpose, and with a cool head. The protection of UK nationals is our number one priority. And we're taking action to reduce the threat, with planes in the sky in the region, intercepting incoming strikes, deploying more capability to Cyprus, and allowing US planes to use UK bases to take out Iran's capability to strike.
Now, a Royal Navy gunship is supposed to be departing from Portsmouth in southern England to Cyprus. It was originally intending to be going this week, but that has now been delayed to next week. That will have political ramifications, perhaps accusations that the British government wasn't prepared enough for this conflict. However, the Prime Minister is maintaining that the UK is taking a defensive stance to this, but that will be entirely dependent on how events in the Middle East will escalate. Sonia Gallego, Al Jazeera, London.
Thanks, Dominique. This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-day weather forecast. And that's it to the 2 Headline News for this Thursday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for a rebroadcast and at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other.